Hello and welcome to my review of the Primaris Space Marine Inceptors. This set of 3 will cost you £30. They sort of remind me of the Aggressors a little bit. And what I mean by that is they're obviously the same price. You get 3. They're a similar sort of size. And when I first saw them, I thought, oh great. They're just bigger versions or Primaris versions of, you know, standard mini marine assault marines. But no, they're not. I'll talk about their rules in a little moment. But first of all, let's look at the models. I've just blue tacked these on, or white tacked. I don't want to be sort of tackist. But still, what I'd like to do is I like to spray the models individually, paint them up, and then once everything's complete, stick them onto that base. I usually use like a Imperial black primer on the base to have something for the base paint and texture to stick on rather than spray it. That's just a technique that I've used and it's worked thus far. Obviously you've got to be a bit careful around this area. So these are the 3 models and they all come in exactly the same pose. They have a plug and socket mechanism that corresponds to each torso and legs. So if you get another 3, these are plasma incinerators. I don't know why my camera's really bright today, it's very odd. Then they're going to be coming out exactly the same as before. So just bear that in mind. One of the reasons is because of the power coupling or ammunition feed, whatever you want to call it. They will only fit on that particular weapon. That power coupling won't fit on any of the other weapons, so that's the reason why you can only have them in those poses, which really baffles me when Games Workshop do this. They do it with the Intercessors, and they also do it with the Hellblasters as well, because surely your primary focus for these kind of kits or for an army is, I'd say, the collecting side of things. You want people to buy these kits, and you want people to buy these kits more than once. So why do you put them in the same pose? They're not a special character or anything like that. You want squads of these things. And I'd rather have worse looking models, if that makes sense, than have models that look exactly the same. I'd rather forego that and have more of them that look slightly worse. I think how they're posed should definitely go into the design process. It seems definitely in the past year or 2 that Games Workshop are leaning more towards the collector items, the exclusives, the one-offs, the unipose models. I mean, that would be unheard of with these models. I mean, these models here, the only thing that's exactly the same is the legs. You know, for those 5 assault marines, the legs are the same. But everything else, you can change the chainsword position. You could cut the chainsword off and put power sword there. You know, you could change the position of the jump pack. You name it. You can just change it all. And that's where we've got to. We've got to less models, more money, less posability. And they're harder to modify as well. They really are. But anyway, limitations aside, I do think they look really cool. It's a shame that I'm only going to have these 3 and then the 3 in the Dark Imperium set. That is a shame, because I would have liked more, because they're really good units. So that's one guy. This is another one, who's the sort of sergeant, I'd say. He's in quite a decent pose. This is probably the worst pose, because he is sort of, you know, I understand where they're going with that pose, but it kind of does look like he's sitting down. That's just me anyway. But that's a better pose. And again, with the heads, they have to be looking in the same direction. Unless you cut that peg off, they're going to look the same as on the box. Maybe people like that, but I'd rather have more variation in my models. I really would. But that's the sergeant. And then this guy, he's in an alright pose, I suppose. But yeah, another sort of guy looking down the barrel of his gun. I do think the sort of jetpacks are pretty cool. You know, you've got thrusters everywhere. 2 thrusters there, 2 main thrusters. Crazy. Right, let's do a little size comparison. So obviously I had the Assault Space Marine. He's on a small base, but you can just see the size difference. I mean, look at the legs there. The size difference. Huge. I mean, the knee sort of is almost at the waist of the Assault Marine. And then he's that much taller as well, even with that jump pack. I mean, huge compared to the previous ones. But yeah, there you go. Next to an Aggressor, which are the same price. I think Aggressors have more of a presence, in my opinion, but similar sort of battlefield role. Aggressors can be very shooty too, and they've got their frag launchers and they've got the power fists, but they just lack that movement and you know, deep strike and availability, and they don't really have a transport other than the repulsor, so getting them in range for those power fists is going to be quite tricky. They're quite short range anyway. So that's the Aggressor, and then a Mini Marine. Yeah, much larger, much more presence than a Mini Marine. And then finally, just might as well just a normal Intercessor. I think they're almost the same height. I mean, you'd expect that, because they're not in Gravis armor or anything like that. They're just in normal armor, but it is sort of more reinforced, it looks like. So spare parts, I won't show you them because they're few and far between. I think I had 2 heads left over and all the parts for the bolters, which include like the shield on the front of them, and the bar that goes on there. You don't put these power couplings in, they're just connected with this hose, but again, they're sort of plug and socket, so you know, one pose sort of only for them. And I have got those on the Dark Imperium. I had no wish to get them, and these are sort of the newer available weapons for them. People like the blast shields. I'm not a huge fan. You know, the shielding or helmets that go over their helmet that's also hooded. But a point to make is you only get 2 of those if you wish to go down that route. And the other one is sort of like a cowling that goes over the helmet, as if it sort of shows that has opened. So yeah, if you want to go down that route, you can't have all 3 of them looking like Iron Man or whatever. So let's look at their rules. So they can be found in the 8th edition Space Marine Codex, and they'd be where you would expect them to be, in the fast attack section. Their power level is a 10. Their movement is 10 inches, which is actually slower than if you equip an assault squad with jump packs. If they've got jump packs, then it's 12, but with these Inceptors, they're less. It's 10 for some reason. I would have thought with the bigger, more powerful, you know, jetpacks, they'd be able to move further, but it's not the case. Their weapon skill, ballistic skills 3+, strength 4. They do gain the 5 for the toughness though. They have the 2 wounds, the 2 attacks, the leadership 7, and the saber 3+. So this goes back to what I said about the Aggressors with the same toughness of 5. Now their main unit is 2 Inceptors and 1 Inceptor Sergeant, and it can include an additional 3 Inceptors, and the main weapons that they come equipped with are the 2 Assault Bolters. Mine aren't, mine are equipped with the Plasma Exterminators, but I'll just talk about the Assault Bolters anyway. So the Assault Bolters, range 18 inches, Assault 3, Strength 5, AP -1 and Damage 1. And the Plasma Exterminators, same range. So you've got your 18 inch range, so your effective range is 28 inches. Although they do have an ability called Meteoric Descent, which I'll talk about in a moment. The Plasma Exterminator, which these guys are armed with, you've got a standard shot and a supercharged shot, much like all plasma weapons nowadays. The type is Assault D3. You've got a good chance of getting 6 shots a turn if you have your averages as 2 shots each. Strength 7, AP -3, Damage 1, or you can supercharge them to get Strength 8, AP -3 and Damage 2. But obviously a roll of 1, the bear is slain after all of his weapon shots have been resolved. You know, whether you want to be doing that when you've got multiple shots of it is up to you. Bear in mind you're missing out on a toughness 5, 2 wound model if you supercharge and you sort of fail. How does that compare to the Hellblaster Squad Plasma Incinerators, I hear you ask? Well, one could say it's similar to their Assault Plasma Incinerators, which have better range, 6 inches better range, so 24 inch range. They have Assault 2, so they're guaranteed to get the 2 shots, but for some reason their strength is lower, but their AP is higher. So they've got an AP of -4, but strength is 6, and then supercharged, strength 7, again, AP -4. So although the Hellblasters Assault Plasma Incinerators is better range and a guaranteed 2 shots, it is worse strength-wise, but it's better AP-wise, which is odd. But I guess these guys, these plasma weapons here, I would have liked them to be AP -4. I think that would have made them very competitive. But at AP -3, there's still a threat to, you know, your sort of standard Space Marines, anything with the 3+ save, I suppose. And with their higher strength of a 7 or even an 8, they are a good anti-armour sort of weapon too. I mean, let's just say you get lucky, you get 9 shots of strength 8, you know, against a Land Raider, and let's say half of them wound. You know, that's a quarter of a Land Raider gone. But then the Land Raider is getting its 2+ saves. So you've got to be wary of things like that. I mean, Land Raiders, I wouldn't really fire these guys at. A Repulsor, however, that seems well set up to be taking damage from these. And also, you know, Predators, things like that have 11 wounds. You're taking off, you know, possibly half of their wounds with these guys. So then the next turn, you've got a chance of completely destroying it. So their abilities, they have, and they shall know no fear. They've got Meteoric Descent, which means that during deployment, you can set up this unit in high orbit instead of placing it on the battlefield. At the end of the movement phases, it can use Meteoric Descent, where you can set it up anywhere on the battlefield that is more than 9 inches away from enemy models, which is great. So it's sort of very similar to Deep Strike, really, but you do it in your movement phase, so then you can fire and you can really cause havoc. I can see these guys being dropped in 9 inches away from a unit at the back, or behind a tank, or, you know, an HQ's bodyguard or something like that, just out of sort of movement and charge range maybe, and then just letting rip with all those plasma weapons. Unfortunately, they don't have any close combat weapons or anything like that, but they do have another ability called Crushing Charge. You roll a d6 each time a model from this unit finishes a charge move within 1 inch of an enemy unit, and on a 6 the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. So the enemy unit suffers a mortal wound. So you still got, you know, out of the 3 models, you still got a 1 in 6 chance of causing that Crushing Charge. Also, they've got combat squad, so they, you know, a squad of 6 can be split into a squad of 3. But what I really like to do is just compare them to the Assault Squad and the Space Marines. So the Assault Squad has a further range because they can move to 12 inches. The Sergeant has access to the melee weapons, pistol weapons, chainswords. He can take a combat shield. He can take melter bombs. 2 of them can be given a flamer or plasma pistol and chainsword. For every 5 you can get an Eviscerator, and they've also got a rule that's very similar to Meteoric Descent, which is Jump Pack Assault, where you can set them up anywhere on the battlefield. So they've got the same rule pretty much as the Inceptors. The Inceptors, you can have 6 of them, but the Assault Squad you can have 10. But the Inceptors obviously have the potential of causing more damage with their weapons, especially if they're in a squad of 6, crikey. And also they're more survivable, not because they've got a better save, but just because they've got the 2 attacks in combat, which of course you'd get 2 with your chainsword, but they've got the 2 wounds and the toughness 5, which means that when they're on the battlefield and they're going to be taking some damage, they're going to be surviving a bit longer with that toughness 5. So there you go. That's all I really wanted to say about the Primaris Inceptors. What do you guys think about them? Do you think their models are the worst out of all the Primaris releases, or do you think they look quite cool and you can imagine them sort of hurtling down from orbit and landing on enemy units and things like that? What do you guys think? Put it in the comments below. As always, thank you ever so much for joining me today. Thank you for watching. The Emperor Protects.